Now this opening shot is still great, and I'm not just talking about the battle. The movie begins perfectly with the pan down to two planetoids that resemble the Earth and its moon. It's a familiar image to us all, of course. Why is C-3PO's brother following behind him? C-3PO's like, you gotta get a tan. This is what they call the inciting incident in screenwriting terms, a moment that sets the plot in motion. The rebel troops line up, ready to defend their ship against an obviously superior opponent. Any horrible dialogue like, Captain, the Star Destroyer is closing in on us. We're being boarded! And so on is non-existent. R2-D2, were you ATMing with that woman? Hey Darth Vader, this is why nobody likes the Empire. Maybe you should just try asking this poor guy. R2-D2 is just trying to get to the bathroom and this asshole keeps following him. Oh wait, I guess this is an escape pod. Shouldn't C-3PO be like running at the stormtroopers with his arms raised in the air saying, I surrender, I surrender? Well, here are the two dumbest guys in the universe. Now we see Vader doing some of his business and we start to get some plot information. This is the moment when we realize that the prequels went and fucked everything up. Yeah, that happens already. Things just don't seem to jive with what happens in episodes 1, 2, and 3. And this ain't the only part, trust me. So we finally land on Tatooine. So C-3PO's inside the pod and he says,
Open the door, R2. I'm simply dying to get out of this escape pod.
R2 then sticks a thing in a thing and pops open the door and they discover a handful of Jawas waiting outside and pointing weapons at them. Cut to interior Jawa sandcrawler. C-3PO says,
Our luck just keeps getting worse and worse, R2.
Because what purpose did it serve to have them walk along the desert, get picked up by Jawa traders, and then finally make it to the Lars Ulrich homestead? In fact, Luke could have just come across the droids on his own in the desert while palling around with his friends. Yes, having the droids wander around for a long time before the next important plot moment seems pointless, but it's all about establishing your environment. You see, Star Wars is a near-perfect script. It starts off with a bang to get things going, and then slowly ramps up from simple to complex over the course of the movie. At the end, Luke is flying in an X-Wing attacking a Death Star. 3PO and R2-D2 are reunited on the Sandcrawler. So the Jawas put the droids out for sale like an old-fashioned slave trade. C-3PO tells Owen Lars that he was built by an 8-year-old, and that he should buy him because of that reason. 10% off! Oh wait, I guess C-3PO got his memory wiped, right? I wish they could wipe my memory. I try to do it every night with booze. And I ain't talking about the Phantom Menace. Finally, we meet Luke Starkiller and his Uncle Owen. The scene aboard the Sandcrawler showing all the pathetic droids in misery is great. Luke, come on out. The Jawas are here to sell us junk. Don't you love our life? You want to live on a planet that's nice? You don't want to live in a dirt hole? Don't be a fucking asshole. This is paradise. This is why your Aunt Beru married me. Because she knew she'd live a life of luxury. We got everything we need. We got no roof over our head. Luke, I'd like you to meet our new protocol droid.
Hello, sir. My name is C-3PO, human-cyborg relation.
Something tells me that's not the first time C-3PO has said that line. Next, we got a little more plot information when Luke discovers the Princess Leia hologram hidden in R2-D2's can. This scene provides a nice little bit of information that moves the plot along and heightens Luke's interest in space adventures. But we all know this scene. Let's talk about the next scene. It's the famous dinner scene. Or I guess it's lunch. Probably lunch or an early dinner if it's the summertime on Tatooine. It's the scene where they drink the blue milk. The actors that played Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru were both ages 61 and 57 respectively at the time of filming Star Wars. Now I don't know how old Mark Hamill was, but Luke was supposed to be 19. So did they ever have any kids of their own on the Lars homestead? If so, where are they? When Obi-Wan dropped Luke off 19 years prior, they looked pretty young, and I didn't see any kids running around. Then they aged 45 years and 19 years, just like Obi-Wan. At last, we come to one of the most famous scenes, and not just in this movie, but in movie history. Everything about it is perfect, and after only knowing Luke for a few scenes, we feel his character and his frustrations. He is someone that's not meant to be a simpleton moisture farmer like his uncle. He's meant for greatness, and he's being held back. That knowledge, coupled with the visuals and the music, makes this perfect. So this scene has 2 Blu-ray changes that shook the internet and angered millions of people. Obi-Wan's scream or dragon scream or whatever the fuck it's called is changed, and R2-D2 is now hiding behind more rocks. But alas, we finally do get to meet Obi-Wan Kenobi now. Somehow R2 knew where he was, and somehow Kenobi knew where to find them. I guess this is the very first scene that the Force made people do things. Anyway, Ben Kenobi is played by actor Sir Alec Guinness, who in my opinion gives one of the best performances in the movie. But all joking aside, after watching this movie again and focusing a little more on the details, you can really see the subtle mastery of Alec Guinness's performance. But anyway, this scene in Obi-Wan's house is one of the central plot scenes where everything is wrong. The very first thing Obi-Wan says is that Uncle Owen didn't hold the same beliefs as Luke's father. We must also take into consideration that Obi-Wan is lying, but that's really expert level lying. And lying seems to be unbecoming of a Jedi Knight. Now the next lie Obi-Wan says is in regards to the lightsaber. Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough, but your uncle wouldn't allow it. So when exactly did this exchange happen? It's possible it happened after Obi-Wan cut Anakin's arms and legs off and melted his face. Maybe Anakin whispered, "If my baby isn't dead, please give him my lightsaber when he's old enough." You know, he would have said that instead of, "Get me a fucking ambulance!" So Obi-Wan finds the message inside R2-D2. It's Princess Leia, and she tells him that her father, who I think was Jimmy Smits, says he served him well in the Clone Wars. Which isn't exactly accurate, but fuck, what is anymore? Anyway, she says R2-D2 has information vital to the survival of the rebellion, but then doesn't tell him what it is. Obi-Wan then turns to Luke and tells him that he must now learn the ways of the Force and come with him to Alderaan. The disconnect between A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith becomes more and more apparent, especially after this next scene when Vader returns home to talk to the bad leader guys in the boardroom on the Death Star. This scene is pretty important to the plot, but it's really just there to engage an element they call the ticking clock. It's a basic function used to create tension in a story. They almost have the Death Star ready. It's ready to shoot giant lasers, and they plan to use it to crush the rebellion by destroying their hidden base. But my question is this, it took them 19 years to do that? I wish they filmed this scene in the movie. God damn, it would have been fun to see them stormtroopers rough up Aunt Beru. Again, another really important scene. This is the first plot point, actually, when Luke is forced to make a decision, and the story goes in a new direction. Anywho, these scenes now show us the most use of the special edition shit in this movie. It's funny how Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back have the least amount of the special edition crap in them. But Jedi, the film that Lucas had the most creative control over, seems to have the most. Anywho, our heroes speed into a wacky cartoon world that is shockingly distracting from the previous scenes in the film. The original version just had 3 basic shots before we got to the part where the stormtroopers surrounded the speeder. Now we have silly dinosaurs everywhere, and robots smacking other robots. So inexplicably, this scene starts out with some kind of weird racist slavery commentary as the bartender says, "We don't serve that kind here." But really, who would be racist towards robots? Maybe Ripley and aliens. But she had a good reason. But this bartender guy, what's his fucking deal? I mean, obviously you don't serve their kind there because robots don't drink booze. Oh my god, Ben. You get a little excessive there. I like how he cuts off the arm of the walrus man guy. He didn't really do anything. Just pushed Luke. Anyway, this guy named Greedo shows up and talks about this guy that Han owes a ton of money to. His name is Jabba. A guy that's dangerous, and Greedo is willing to kill Han over the whole thing. Han says, over my dead body, and then Greedo says, that's the idea, implying that he's gonna shoot him. Meanwhile, Han is surreptitiously preparing his blaster under the table. He even pretends to be interested in the stucco wall for a minute to distract him. Then he fires under the table and kills Greedo in cold blood. Literally in cold blood, because I think Greedo's a reptile. Who's playing the drums again, god damn it? Now we get to this new added Jabba scene. So Jabba shows up at the Falcon looking for Han Solo. Now for those of you who don't know, this scene was originally shot with an actor in place of Jabba. Han walks around the actor in the original scene, so in the special edition, they digitally push up Harrison Ford to make it look like he stepped on Jabba's tail. How anyone didn't see that was the worst idea ever is beyond me. I mean, maybe they did, but George wanted it, so he had to get it. It's amazingly stupid beyond all human comprehension. Hey, what about R2-D2? Doesn't he get a seatbelt? You gotta be a humanoid shape to get a seatbelt? He's a little guy on wheels. He's gonna roll around. Don't worry about me, guys. I'm just gonna roll around the room violently, smashing into things, and risk being damaged, or accidentally damaging the important plans inside me. You know, Leia standing there makes me wonder what Darth Vader smells like. You think he's got a colostomy bag? But anyway, I do love this scene. Peter Cushing is great, and so is Carrie Fisher. She's so feisty, and of course Vader can't even sense with the Force that she's his daughter. But anyway, now you see the planet. But the real thrust of this scene is this is when the stakes are really raised. Instead of just a giant floating ball in space, we are now shown that the Death Star is capable of blowing up whole planets. And our ragtag group of heroes are the only ones that can stop it. Luke is now training with Obi-Wan. I'm not sure why Obi-Wan wants to train Luke anyway. His mission was to get to Alderaan to help the rebellion with something. And since the Jedi are trained since the time when they're toddlers, what does Obi-Wan think he's going to accomplish in this short trip to Alderaan? He should have started to train Luke and others in secret on Tatooine years ago. Instead, he sat in a hut getting old for 20 years. So Obi-Wan has a personal lightsaber, and Luke has his father's old one on his belt, which he's been carrying around. Does he bring it with him on the Death Star? I don't remember. I guess we'll wait to find out. If he did, I would have been cutting everything up in sight. Oh no, they're caught in the tractor beam for the Death Star. Now it's a lot of fun to pick on the Death Star. I guess unless it's got its giant laser pointed at you. So the guy calls Tarkin on his communicatron, and they figure out that this is the ship that they're looking for. He just kind of looks at the ship, and then talks to some guy and leaves.
Did our incredibly slow-moving tractor beam give them time to falsify their logs and hide somewhere on the ship?
Yes, sir, I believe so. I'll have stormtroopers walk around the ship and do nothing in a minute. He was just checking into the bad transmitter. Then he opens the door and gets mauled by a Sasquatch. There was a deleted scene from Star Wars, actually, that showed that it was his birthday. He had a little party in the back room with some of his co-workers.
Lord Vader,
Yes.
I can sense that there are a bunch of assholes in the control room on the Death Star.
What?
And Kenobi is with them.
Which control room is it?
What? It's the one with the black and red walls. And it has the massive steel door, you know that one?
My master, they all have that.
Wow, Ben's a pretty good map reader. By just glancing at this confusing green blueprint thing with like 27 flashing images, he seems to know exactly which way to go. So the prisoner room and the garbage dump that's like one floor below it is like right near where the hangar bay is. Same with all 7 power reactor control things that shut off power to the main tractor beam. Why is this Death Star so big again? Oh right, the giant space laser. Ah, whatever. Here, Luke, Han, and Chewie murder 9 people in cold blood. God, I love movies made in the 70s. However, Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill made some suggestions to change the lines. Carrie Fisher said, how about she says, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? Anyway, somebody sure is going crazy with that fog machine. What is this, a Def Leppard concert? I don't know, everybody's shooting at each other. But I guess our heroes are lucky that the stormtroopers only have one way of dealing with intruders on the Death Star. By the way, can I just say one thing? A CGI stormtrooper will never, ever look as real as a guy in a costume. No matter how fancy your computer is, or how realistic you get the lighting and the textures, it'll never look right. Stop fucking doing it! That was the problem with the prequels, is that all the clone troopers look like fucking cartoons. Stop it! Put costumes on some fucking extras, you lazy sack of fucking crap. Coming up here is the famous stormtrooper bumps his head shot. Droids are essentially walking computers that can do all sorts of infiltration and spying and whatnot. The Empire is pretty laxed about droids just doing whatever they want on the Death Star. Anyway, back to Star Wars. Don't fall, Ben Kenobi, don't fall. After they get out of the garbage dump, everybody takes a shower and changes. You know, because they've got time to do that. There is a nice little touch here that you may or may not have noticed ever. I didn't, because I have cataracts in both of my eyes. Leia somehow manages to dry clean her bright white princess outfit somehow. Now, that's a pretty thin rope. All that weight on Luke's one hand probably would have cut him open or broke his hand or something. What a plot hole! Oh hey, watch for the shadow of the cameraman as the stormtroopers run by. What a quality production! So Obi-Wan fights Vader now. Vader tells him that he should not have come back. Then Obi-Wan explains that he didn't come back, but they got sucked up by the tractor beam, and that he'd gladly leave if given the opportunity. What a plot hole! Who made this movie? Christopher Nolan? That overrated hack? In either case, Ben vanishes and Luke yells, "No!" Which I guess is like poetry because it rhymes. But anyways, you know, I've never really liked the way most of this ending played out. You know, the whole escape from the Death Star, Ben's death, all that stuff. So finally we get to Yavin, or rather a moon on the far side of Yavin. Apparently the rebellion have a hidden base inside some kind of ancient Mayan temple or something. And then once they analyze the plans, they find out that the Death Star does indeed have a weakness. It's the exhaust port. Anyways, now some of you will say, why didn't the Empire just close off the hole that blows it up? And to that I say, it's an exhaust port, meaning it's a thing that lets out exhaust. Or something! I suppose it's similar to the tailpipe of a car or an asshole of a cat. You just can't put your dick in it and hope that everything will be normal after that. So anyway, Han gets his reward now. I guess, Jesus Christ, how devalued is the currency that the rebellion uses? But we only have rebellion rubles. Have fun loading it yourself too, prick. We got this little thing going on. I don't got anybody to spare to help you. Oh, also, thanks for saving the lesbian that has essentially doomed us all to death. Speaking of Leia, since she basically led the Empire here to this planet, we'll be forced to relocate our secret base to Hoth. Thanks guys, you're doing a great job. But do I really need to wear this large helmet? It's really hard to see in this. Plus we're basically flying at night. Also my chances are in the 90 percentile range that I'm gonna die in a fiery death. So the helmet isn't super important. But thanks! We're starting for the target shaft now. What does this guy think he's in a prison shower? There's so many sexual innuendo lines in this movie I could fuck. Luke, at that speed, do you think you can pull out in time? Get in there, you big hairy ape. I don't care what you smell. I like how the communication system works on the Death Star. You just gotta walk around the hallways until you find Darth Vader if you have to tell him something. Porkins died for nothing? He was a favorite customer at the Golden Corral buffet. He always tipped in 12 pounds of zinc. And he didn't even get shot down or die heroically. He was just too heavy for his X-Wing. Oh no, now we lost Bob Saget too? Who will make horribly embarrassing comedy specials? So again, we've got a lot of new special edition changes here. Now watch this. R2-D2 gets shot in the head by Vader and explodes. And then when Luke reacts and looks back, there's nothing wrong with R2-D2. They obviously just used some random shot of Luke looking back because that's all they had. We need to find a shot where Luke kind of looks back over his shoulder. I guess if you're gonna have one sole survivor of this whole Death Star fiasco, I guess it's good that it's Darth Vader, you know? His toys will sell a lot better for the next movie. Somehow someone stripped R2-D2 for parts while he was inside the X-Wing. Those Mexicans sure are resourceful. Now sure, Han pretends to be excited for everybody, but really on the inside he's thinking about the least awkward way that he can ask for more zinc. Now Chewbacca doesn't get a medal because he isn't white. He might as well be called Jewbacca. So no minorities or women are X-Wing pilots, homosexual robots are slaves, and 2 white guys just killed over 1 million people. Let's celebrate our freedom! Anyway, regardless of the pointless special edition changes or the embarrassment of the prequels, Star Wars will always remain a classic movie that will survive, despite the disdain of its creator. It's because of the vicarious adventure, the imagination, and the message that the mightiest of heroes can come from the humblest of places. It's a classic literary tale of good versus evil, depicted in a corny science fiction world. And the message will always remain pure and simple. You can add all the rocks you want, you can make all the video games, and turn Darth Vader into a silly dancing asshole, but you could never completely undo the impact that Star Wars has had on the imaginations of millions of people, including me. Well, everyone, thank you for listening to me complain about Star Wars for 2 hours. It's been a pleasure.